Alright guys, let's get started now. I hope all of you are able to hear me. Alright guys, let's get started now. So yesterday I had introduced you with the purpose of why we need the .NET technology at the first place, how is it going to benefit us, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's start with a basic program and let us see how do we play around with it. To start with, first of all, I told you yesterday that when you talk about .NET technology, I'm going to say that the programming language that we will be using over here is going to be C#.NET. All right. Now, C#.NET, just a brief introduction about C#.NET. It's basically an object-oriented programming language. Now, what does this mean? This means that all logics are to be written within a function. Okay, the function will be a part of a class. To access the function, an instance of the class need to be created. Using that instance, we will invoke the necessary functions. All right. So this is the whole basic fundamental concept related to object-oriented programming language. Now, in order to understand this thing thoroughly, number one, you should have a good understanding towards object-oriented programming language. But in case if you don't have the prior background of object-oriented programming language, no problems. We will be covering up the concept of object-oriented programming concepts over here, and therefore you'll understand how it is working over here. Okay, so at the moment, just keep it this way, that all methods would contain the logics. The methods would be written inside a class. The class would be instantiated, and then using that instance you'll be invoking the method. This is the the bottom line. That's it. Okay, any questions, any doubts? Okay. So first of all, what we are going to see is how do I print a statement on the screen. So this is going to be the first requirement. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in a separate notepad. How to print hello world in C#. All right, now to print anything on the screen, you have a method called write method. So write is a method, is a predefined method used to print a statement on the screen. Now this write method belongs to a class called console. Is the name of the class in which the write method is defined. And this console class in turn is defined inside a file which is technically referred as a namespace. So that is system. Name of the namespace within which the class console is defined. Now, it's not the console class which is defined within the system namespace. There are other names. There are other classes also which are defined over there. Okay, you will be learning all these things. Okay. Now, how do we write a program and how do we get this thing printed? Let's take a look at that. Now, there are two ways of doing it. A, I can make use of an IDE, that is integrated development environment, like Visual Studio, and I can write my application over there. Or to gain more hands-on the programming stuff, it would be more appropriate if we do the typing, if we do the hard work by our own. So what I'm doing is, over here I'm opening up a Notepad application, and this is where I'll be writing my entire code. Okay, so I'm not taking the help of IDE. I'm directly typing it on the Notepad. I'll get it compiled. I'll see if it is getting compiled or not, and if it gets compiled, then how to execute it. If not, what is the error message, how to debug it, those things I'll explain to you. So the first requirement is that I want to print some statement on the screen. So I have the write method. As I said, you're going to use this write method. The write method accepts a parameter of type string, and it does not have a return value. So it goes like this. Now all statements would end with a semicolon. Okay. So you have called the write method. Now you need to tell the compiler that, boss, this write method belongs to a class called console. So you need to give reference of the console class. It goes like this: console dot write of hello world. Now where does this console belong to? The console belongs to the namespace called system. So you need to give the reference of the system namespace also. So technically speaking, your line looks like this: system.console.write of hello world. Now this is my logic. Now where am I going to write this logic? I'm going to write this logic within a static method called main. And where will this main method be defined? This main method will be defined within a class. Now the class can have any particular name. So I'm just giving a name called class demo. I'm going to save this particular file under a folder called demos, and I'm going to save this file with the extension .cs. So I'm going to say something like this: prog1.cs. Now if you take a look at this very carefully, I'm using the double quotes. I'm writing the name of this file within the double quotes. Why? There is a reason behind it. You have written a code in Notepad, okay, and whenever you try to save whatever content you have written inside a Notepad, it will always be saved with the extension .txt. That's the default extension of a Notepad. Now here what you want is, you want that it should be saved with a different extension and not by the .txt. So even if you give only the prog1.cs as the name without the double quotes, there is a 99% chance that it will get saved as prog1.cs. There won't be any problem. But there is that 1% problem wherein it would save the file as prog1.cs.txt. So when you enclose this name within the double quotes, you're assuring that the file name would definitely be saved with the extension .cs, and in no case it will be saved with the extension .txt. So that is the reason I'm using the double quotes over here. Hit enter. The file is saved. Now what I need to do is, I have written the code. Okay, I'm not sure whether it is working fine or not. I need to compile it. I need to check it. So what do I do? Very simple. I'll go to the start, and under the all programs, I have the folder called Microsoft Visual Studio 2012. I'll expand this, within which I'll see I have the Visual Studio Tools folder. I'll expand that as well. And then I have a file called Developer Command Prompt for Visual Studio 2010. I would get this thing executed. I'll run this particular application as an administrator. So this is your command prompt. Now remember, you cannot open just the command prompt. You have to open the developer command prompt. Okay, there is a difference over here. So now you'll go to the E drive, because that is where the folder is located. You'll open up the ITeLearn folder. You'll open up the demo folder. And when I say dir and hit enter, I realize that I observe that there is only one file available over here. And the name of that file is prog1.cs. Now, I need to compile this particular program. To do that, I'm going to write a command called csc space the name of the file, the full name of the file, prog1.cs. Alright, hit enter. Now, you observe that we have got only 3 lines written, and there is no other line written other than these 3 lines. This is an indication that your program is syntactically correct. There are no syntactical mistakes you have committed, and as a result of which it has created an executable file which contains the Microsoft intermediary language, with the help of which the code gets executed. Now, taking a look at these 3 lines, what we have written over here, we realize that we are using the .NET Framework 4.5. So we are currently working on .NET Framework 4.5, and the C# compiler version is 4.0. So as you can recollect, yesterday I told you that in .NET Framework you have versions like 2.0, 3.0, 3.5, 4.0, 4.5. And in C# you have 2.0, 3.0 and 4.0 only. So that information has come over here. Now we have also got C# 5.0 as well. But the framework version is different. Okay. So anyways, so once you do this, just type in the dir command again, hit enter, and you see that executable file with the same name, okay, being generated automatically. And now all I need to do is get this file executed. So I'm just going to type the name of the file, just the name of the file, no extension. Hit enter, and it prints hello world. Are these steps clear to all of you? Any questions for me? Okay, Narayan says it's clear to him. Any questions, guys? Any issues? Okay, let me proceed further then. Now I have already written one particular piece of code. I've already written a piece of code. I want to make some changes to it. So I'll go back to my prog1.cs file, and here I'm adding one more piece of code. I just say system.console.write we are learning C#.net. Now let us save this file. So you made changes to your own file. You need to recompile it now. Let's recompile it. Excellent. No syntactical mistakes. Now I just type in the name of the file name and I hit enter. Now as you can see over here, I have two lines. I wanted to print two lines. Okay, and basically I wanted it to be printed one after the other, but when it got executed, it printed those two lines in a single line, those two statements in a single line. So how do I bring in these two statements in two different lines? When you use this write method, please remember it would print it on that particular screen, and it will just leave it. It will never give a blank line over there. Okay, if you want, it should print that statement and it should place the cursor to the next line. Then what you can do is, instead of using this write method, make use of a method called Readline. So what this Readline will do, it will print that hello world and then it will place the cursor to the next line. So now the second statement, which is we are learning C#.net, would be printed on the second line. Take a look at it. I've saved it, compiling it, done, and getting it executed. So now I get both the statements printed in multiple lines. Fair enough. So this is the difference between a write method and a Readline method. Now let's talk about some data types. Okay, now data types in C#.net are categorized in two segments. One is value type and the other one is reference type. Okay, value type, for your comfort zone, okay, this is basically also otherwise known as variable whose memory is allotted in stack. Variable whose memory is allotted in heap. Okay, we'll be talking about these two things in detail. For your reference sake, this is basically the primitive data types, such as int 16, int 32, int 64, character, boolean, byte, string. All right. So these are the ones that come under the value type segment. Okay. So let's now understand how to declare a variable, how to initialize them. Remember one more thing. These variables are defined in the system namespace. So how to use it? Okay, let's take a look at it. I'm going to save this with a different name, say talk2.cs. Okay. Now, I can say something like this: system.int32 number is equals to, this is variable declaration is equals to 50. This is variable initialization. Okay, and then I need to get this value printed. Let's compile it now. No syntactical mistakes, and it just printed the value called 50. Okay, now if I want to print the variable's value with a proper message, then how do I do that? Very simple. System.console.writeline value of variable number is, this is one way of getting it printed. Okay, take a look at it. So this is one way of getting that variable's value printed on the screen. Okay, another way is, this is the another way. So instead of using that curly bracket 0 and things like that, you can use the plus operator. Plus operator is to concatenate the string with an integer value, or concatenating two strings. All right, now over here you realize that, you know, I'm time and again I'm writing system dot and things like that. You can avoid doing this also. What you can do is, at the beginning you just type using system. That's it. When you do this, you need not prefix anything as system. You can get rid of it. Like this. Let's compile it again. No syntactical mistakes. and the program works absolutely fine without any difficulty. So like this, you can declare any type of variables. For example, if I have to play around with the character type of variable, then how do I do that? Very simple. So I say char alphabet. Within the single quotes, the respective letter. So it got the value printed on the screen. Is it clear to anybody? To all of you? Any doubts? Okay, let me proceed further then. Now let's take another example. How do I get the value from the user? I want the user to enter something, and whatever he is entering, that should be printed back to him. Okay. So let's say I want the user to enter his name. So I have declared a variable of type string data type. If I have to print anything on the screen, I'm either using a write method or write line method. Similarly, if I have to pick up, if I have to get the value from the user, then I have this readline method. The readline method does not accept any parameter. Rather, it returns you a value of type string. So now here you can say your name is let's compile it. No syntactical mistakes. I'm entering my name. It says your name is Jojo. Is it clear to all of you guys? Any questions for me? Okay. The console, the write line method can accept multiple sets of parameters. Okay. So if I have to print all the parameters, then either one way is that I use the plus operator, which at times becomes very confusing. Okay. The second option is that I have I'm going to treat all these parameters, whatever is coming over here, as a part of an array. So I'm saying that this is the 0th index. What I've highlighted for you over here is the 0th index. So I want to print that 0th index value. Right? So likewise, if you have multiple parameters, you can keep putting such values, and wherever that index position is, there it will print the value. It's pretty simple. Take a look at it now, and I'll just show you one more example. That is correct. It goes like 0, 1, 2, etc. Correct. So take a look at this example. Excuse me. This is basically known as variable declaration. And initialization. Then I have a byte variable for each. Then I have gender. Okay. Now I want to print all the 3 variables value. So I can just say console.writeline name age /t is for tab. Name, age, gender. Is it clear now to all of you? Yeah, you're welcome, Tarun. Okay. See, your question, Narayan, is public static void main is a function. What does it mean? Okay. Now let me explain to you. Whenever you get a problem to resolve, that problem needs to be divided into smaller manageable groups. Okay. Now, each group is technically known as a function or a procedure. Alright? In a program, we can have minimum 1 or more than 1 such logical groups. So you imagine you have written one particular program which has got around 100 odd functions. Okay, Now, from where should I start the function? From where should I start executing the program? The compiler will not know. So what we need to do is we need to give an entry point. We are telling that this is the program, start executing from here. So the main method, the purpose of the main method is that it tells the compiler that this is where it has to start executing. And it is a user defined function. Okay. So let me just put it over here. The purpose of main method is that it tells the compiler that this is the starting point of the program. So this is the place from where it has to start, executing it. Is it clear to all of you? Great. Now, so here I'm getting all the values initialized and getting it printed. Now I want to do something better. I want to get the values from the user and then I have to perform I will display the information. Okay. So how do I incorporate that? Very simple. I've already shown you how to get the name from the user. Now I'm showing you how to get the age from the user. Okay. So what I'll do is, now we know that to get the value from the user, you are going to use the readline method. The readline method will always return a string value. That is for sure. So what you will do is you just declare one string variable. So this is going to be age. Okay. And most important, because that value needs to be now sent to a byte variable, a variable of type number. So I've declared one more variable which says EH. Okay. So here I say now whatever you have passed, that needs to be converted into byte and then it has to be stored inside that EH variable. So to do that, we have a 2-byte method. The 2-byte method takes an argument of type string, okay, and it returns you a byte variable's value. So you'll put it like this. Now this 2-byte method is defined inside a class called convert. So you need to give the reference of this convert also. So you'll say convert dot 2-byte of age. Now you can say age entered by you is, now here I need not convert anything. Okay, I'll just have to print that EH variable's value. Let's compile it now. Is this clear to everybody? Any doubts? Any questions? Okay, great. Now, let's get a couple of things together. I want the name, age, address. Three things together. Okay. So, let's save this file. Email, age. No errors, no mistakes. It's asking me to enter the name. I've entered the name Jojo, age 23. Okay. So this is how you will play around with this read line and write line. There is another way of doing the same thing, okay, wherein I need not declare this additional variable. So how do we play around with it? I can invoke the console.readline method within the convert.toByte method. Take a look at it. Same program. Got rid of this variable. Simple. Now let's take a look at it. So it's working absolutely fine. Charanpreet, it's up to you. Wherever you want to declare the variable, you can declare it. No problems. Yes, Vandana, you can take integer in place of byte, but you have to understand that these variables, each of them has a certain capacity. For example, if you talk about age, now what would be the maximum age? Now nobody lives for 1,000 years, okay? So a maximum a person may live say for 200 years, right? So how do you store this 200? Now to store this 200, I don't require an integer variable. So for such situations, you can go for byte variable. So it would depend upon what type of application you are creating, what is your requirement, and based on that you have to decide as to what data type would be appropriate. Is it clear? Right. Now, this was the basic operations that we did. Okay, that is accepting and displaying. Now let's do a calculation example also. No, we are storing the values, Narayan. What we are doing is whatever value you are getting, you are storing it inside these variables. These are temporary variables. So these variables would occupy the memory till the time the application is running. As soon as the application ends, the variable will be destroyed, and it will be destroyed by the CLR. So that variable will definitely be storing some value, whatever you have passed. When you say assign to variable, what does that mean? Assigning anything to the variable means that you are storing a value into the variable. Yeah. Is it clear, Narayan? Yeah. Good. All right. So now let's take a look at how to carry out some basic calculations. Okay. Let's assume that I want the user to enter. Can you please show all three data types example? Which three data types, Narayan? I've already shown string, integer, and another string. Which data types are you talking about, Narayan? Right now we are only talking about value or primitive data type. Okay, I am not jumping on to reference. Once I reach reference at the appropriate time, I'll tell you what is the difference between this reference type and value type. Not right now. Right. So now let's see how to perform the calculations. Okay, so I'm just taking one more example over here. Okay. I have declared three variables, num1, num2, and result. I am getting the value from the user for both the variables, num1 and num2. Now let's compile the program. So first of all, it's asking me to enter one number. I've entered the number 15. Next number, I say 35. Sum of 15 and 35 is 50. Is it clear to all of you guys? Any questions for me? Okay, great. So we're going to stop over here. In today, just for a recap, in today's session, I've just discussed about how to print something on the screen using C#.NET language, how to get the value from the user, how to initialize a variable from a value to the variable, how to read the data from the variable. Fair enough? So that's it for today, guys. The next class will be, you will be intimated about the next class, as to when it will happen. Okay. Right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye. Take care.